Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we'll be discussing what a complete and utter failure I was during 2020, and that's about it. If that sounds interesting, go ahead and stick around. We should start with what my goals were for 2020 so you can see how and why and where I failed. So I will go ahead and reiterate or repeat the goals that I set for myself last year on this show. First, I wanted to continue to do one video a week on the Podcastage channel. I wanted to get caught up on the reviews of gear that I've had for a long time. I wanted to do some preamp reviews. I wanted to do at least 6 Versus series. I wanted to have more fun and do more stuff that is personality-driven, do quarterly Geeks Rising podcasts, do 1 post per month on bandrewscott.com, keep up the podcastage.com website, and grow the awareness of it to get 1,000 views per day, and do more collaborations in 2020. That is a lot of stuff, and I am not surprised that I failed at quite a bit of it. Let me list the stuff that I failed at, and maybe we can explore how and why I failed each of these goals. First, I did not get caught up on too much of the older gear that I had sitting around. I don't know why I did not get around to it. I assumed this year, once lockdown started, that I would have a lot more time to focus on making videos, maybe even up the production to 2 videos per week. Turns out being locked at home and working from home means you just work more. I did not have more time, I had less time available to me, and it was really more of a juggling act trying to determine, I know this older piece of gear is not going to do well. I know this newer piece of gear will do well. Or in certain instances, I could do a product review, which I know will help a set number of people, a very limited number of people, versus doing more of an educational video, which I believe would help significantly more people, and I would opt for that educational video over the standard product review. So because of that, I didn't really get caught up on the older gear that I have. All of it's still there. It's sitting on the shelf waiting to be reviewed. One day I will get to it. There's a joke that I won't get around to reviewing some of this gear until it's properly known as vintage, but who knows? Maybe it will. I did not do any preamp reviews. That's the same thing. I know that preamp reviews are going to be very niche, especially because the majority of people who are looking at audio gear are more budget focused, which makes perfect sense. When somebody is getting into audio, they just think, $150 just to connect my microphone to the computer? That's so much money. They don't even begin to think, what are the subtle nuances to the harmonic series when I add this $300 Neve 1073 preamp clone prior to the audio analog to digital conversion? They don't think about that. They just think, I want to plug my microphone into my computer. How do I do that? Therefore, preamps are going to be much more niche and much more specialized. Therefore, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to work those in. But I do want to get around to them because I find preamps fascinating and I want to explore that a little bit more. I don't know if I said therefore about 5 times in that last sentence or 2. I think I did though. I also did not do any proper Versus series. That's because I don't know what to compare anymore. There are so many microphones that I can pick from, and regardless of what I pick, somebody is going to be angry about it, saying, why did you compare these two? You should have compared those. But on top of that, I also started to include contextual information into my microphone reviews. What I mean by that is, instead of just speaking into the microphone that I am reviewing, I will also include samples from 5 to 10 other microphones, because I think that really helps create the context that microphone exists within, and ultimately provides the viewer and the listener a much more full picture of where the microphone's benefits and where the microphone's faults lie, and whether or not it would be a good option for them. Once I started adding all of those comparisons, first off, the production of those videos takes significantly longer, and On one hand, I hate myself for adding those comparisons, but on the other hand, I know it is incredibly valuable, so I'm gonna continue to do it, but I hate the added time that it takes. But I'm giving a much more full picture and kind of adding in a miniature versus series without the guitar and singing tests that the full versus series would have. What else did I fail at this year? I did not do quarterly Geeks Rising podcast roundtable things, which, if you don't know, Geeks Rising is the podcast network that I run, that this show is a part of. The goal was to have quarterly roundtable podcasts with different members of the podcast network. That falls completely on my plate. I failed because I was incredibly distracted this year. I don't know if all y'all are aware of this. There was an outbreak. There was a pandemic. And it really distracted me. And there were entire quarters of the year where I just wanted to curl up and not produce anything. The fact that I even made a video many of the weeks is shocking to me because I did not want to do that. And because of that, I did not schedule or properly coordinate with everybody else on the network to get a lot of those quarterly podcasts done. And the last thing that I failed at was I did 0 collaborations in 2020. What a shocker. Communications broke down around the world. Everybody got hyper-focused on themselves, their families, their own well-being, and that makes perfect sense. I wanted to hide in a hole for months at a time. Therefore, I did not try to reach out and communicate with other creators, try to develop content strategies on how to properly do a crossover between our audiences. I didn't do any of that. I didn't care about it. I was focused on trying to maintain some kind of normalcy in my life and hopefully provide some kind of escape for the people who were watching my channel. And that was very difficult for me. It was hard to do, given that I was working more hours at my day job. I was still doing all of the video production that I already had, and I was stressed out and freaking out for a lot of the year. I didn't have the energy or the time to spend contacting other people. But let's focus on positive stuff. What did I accomplish this year? Oh boy, I accomplished so much. And the first thing is I had significantly more fun with the videos that I was making. It may not seem like it at times because some of it did get a little bit heavy, but good golly, I stopped caring a little bit about what people think of me, and I had a blast with it. There are certain weeks where I do a little bit less preparation and just wing it a bit more, and I always find that fun. It's always refreshing to have a more honest and less prepared, less structured conversation on video, and that is so much fun. One of my most favorite videos to make was the walkthrough of every single microphone emulation for the Townsend Labs Sphere L22, which is on the Podcastage 2 channel. And it's not that I think it's one of my best videos. I think it's far from that. It was a video that had 0 preparation. I sat down, plugged in the microphone, hit record, and walked through every single microphone emulation. And I don't know why, it was so much fun. I absolutely understand why people don't prepare for videos. But at the same time, I'm going to continue to prepare for videos because I think you ought to respect your audience's time and try to provide them information in as easy to digest and as quick a format as you possibly can. Secondly, I did make one post every single month on bandrewscott.com, at least one post every single month, whether it be sharing a watch review, sharing the videos that I did on the Geeks Rising channel, or aggregating my annual production upload. It was anything and everything, and I am really thrilled that I was able to keep that up. I don't know why I do it. I don't know why I have that webpage and why I put blog posts there, why I do a watch list, why I do anything on that website. It really is just a passion project for me. It's something fun for me to do. It makes me focus on and realize my accomplishments as opposed to just trying to finish one checklist, put out a video, and then focus on the next one. it gives me time to reflect on what I have done and hopefully get a little bit more joy out of it and kind of give myself a pat on the back. And that's always nice to do. I also did keep up with podcastage.com. I made a blog post for every single review or video that I did. On the reviews, I also made sure to upload the highest quality audio file of that video that I was able to do, which unfortunately is not WAV, it is not lossless, but it is a 320 kilobits per second M4A at 48 kilohertz, so still a pretty high quality audio file. I did also grow awareness of podcastage.com. I did not look at analytics the entire year, but I was shocked when I looked at the end of the year and realized, oh, I met the goal of reaching 1,000 page views a day, and that is overall page views. That is not unique page views or visits. Unique visits were 500 a day, but 1,000 views per day, shocking to me. I did not do anything to properly do that. I just linked the high-quality audio in the description of the videos, and I made sure that I tagged all of my posts properly, so hopefully some of that was coming from Google search results as well. And the last accomplishment that I have listed here is I started the Favorite Things series on Geeks Rising. That is a new series on the Geeks Rising YouTube channel where different members of the podcast network will share their favorite things of the month or the year. This month, we are doing something slightly different that I think is always fascinating and really fun to see, but then we will be going back to the favorite things of the month, or maybe we'll develop new ideas as well. But those have been so much fun to do, not just creating the videos, but the thing that I have found most rewarding about it is seeing everybody's different production styles and different approaches to selecting things. A lot of my stuff is gear related because I am such a gearhead, but then you have Heather and Ben and everybody just selecting different items that they enjoy for different reasons, whether it be a book, whether it be traveling, whether it be a camera. And I have found that extremely fun and interesting to watch develop, and it's been great to see. Something else that I thought might be a little bit interesting is sharing my favorite videos that I made over 2020, not to pat myself on the back, but to maybe force myself to focus on what I think is the most rewarding type of video to create. First, we'll start with the Podcastage channel. And the first one is the U87AI, the Neumann U87AI. The reason for that is that was just a milestone video for me. The U87AI, I never thought I would be able to review that or purchase it or own it or even rent the damn thing. When I first started Podcastage, I had a difficult time purchasing the Audio-Technica AT2020, which is a $100 microphone. That was extremely straining on my finances. The fact that I was able to get to a point where I was able to buy the U87AI boggles my mind. So it is somewhat of a milestone for me, and I'm sure based on that, you can guess what my favorite microphone or one of my favorite videos of the next years will be, because it is another milestone. And the second video that is my favorite on the Podcastage channel is the 10 tips on better sounding vocal recordings for beginners, whatever the hell I titled that thing. The reason I liked that one is, first off, I had somebody telling me, don't remake that video, that's stupid, that's a stupid idea. And I said, your stupid idea, and I made it, and it seems to have done fairly well. It reached quite a large audience, and the reason, it's not the views that matter to me, it's the fact that it seems to have helped a large number of people who were forced into a position where they were being required to think about audio and getting good sound when they have never thought about that in their entire life. They have just picked up a phone in the past and gone forward, but now they are forced into a position where they have to purchase a microphone, figure out how to connect it to your computer, figure out how to decrease the amount of room tone and reverb and background noise, and figure out how to play a polar pattern to their benefit. They've never thought about that, and the fact that that video reached a large number of people, and I am assuming helped them to a certain extent is really rewarding for me. Then on this channel, the Bandrew Says podcast, what are my favorite videos or episodes of this show this last year? I don't have the titles of the shows, but episode 209, that is the episode where I talked trash about the late night talk show hosts and their audio and video performance from their at-home recording. That was so much fun. It wasn't just rewarding, it was almost cathartic, because for years you have had traditional media mocking YouTubers. Oh, look at them, they're just a bunch of losers who sit in their spare bedroom and record. How hard is that? Well, we learned very quickly how hard it was, because their production quality was crap. It was terrible, their video sucked, their audio was even worse, and it was a blast, sticking it to the man. I know a lot of you may not think, oh, look at them, they're sticking it to the man. To me, it was. To me, it was a big middle finger to the establishment saying, why don't you eat a bag of dongs, you bunch of losers? You think that our job is easy? Yeah, try doing 12 jobs and making it good. You bunch of losers. We do 12 jobs. You have 12 different employees doing each of those 12 jobs. Eat it. That was so much fun to do. And then episode 214, and that was my OBS settings to avoid clipping. That was just something that was helpful, I think, and as you can tell, I like making videos and stuff that people find helpful. That seems to have been helpful. I am glad that I made that. I almost did include my critique of Jay's 2 cents because I had a lot of fun making that, but I don't like the audience that it attracted. It seemed to attract a very negative audience. Even though I was doing it in good fun, trying to make the critique and the correction a bit more entertaining, people seemed to take it either as me being jealous, being extremely mean-spirited, or as an okay to trash Jay. I didn't like the audience that it created, so although it was, I think it may be the most popular video and episode of this show, I don't like what it did. Therefore, I am not including it on the list, but if it didn't attract that terrible audience, or maybe not terrible audience, but give the okay for people to be negative, it may have made the list. And the last channel that I want to include is the Bandrew Plays channel, and number 1 is the Best Buy Girl song that I did. That was a joke on my Discord because I met a clerk at Best Buy and she was talking to me about UFOs for like 10 minutes, taking off her jacket, showing me her UFO tattoos. And I told people on Discord and they made a joke that I wouldn't make a song about her or something like that. I can't remember exactly how it came about, but I finally did it. And I'm really happy with how the song turned out. It was a lot of fun and I recorded it with a U67, so that just made it all the better. And the second video was the You've Got a Friend in Me cover that I did on the AEA KU5A on the ukulele. That one I'm picking because I love that microphone, and also I really enjoy how that song translates to the ukulele. It has a very playful aspect to it because the uke is very delicate and high-pitched, but the KU5A adds this warmth and weight to it that the uke should not have. It just worked really well, and I am happy with how it turned out, even though I find it extremely cheesy and corny. And the last thing that we will do in reflecting about the last year is look at numbers. On January 1st, 2020, the podcasted subscriber number was 133,000. 2021, January 1st, it ended on 231,000. So a growth of around 100,000 subscribers. I do not have the views. I did not write that down. I should have. I didn't even do it this year. Big mistake, but growth of 100,000 subscribers. The Bandrew Says podcast went from 1,600 up to 6,400. Growth of around 4,500 subs. The Bandrew Says Twitter account went from 1,500 to 1,900, growth of 400. And the podcastage Twitter went from 2,500 to 5,200, a growth of around 2,700 followers. In case you're interested in that kind of stuff, I focused a lot less on the follower or subscription number. I have said this on Twitter a number of times, and I think I've mentioned it in this show in the past. I have changed my focus from trying to grow the subscriber number to ensuring that the content that I'm making is serving the audience that I already have. And I don't remember who said that initially, but the way that I remember it or think about it is the same way as a company talking about gaining a new subscription or gaining a new paying customer or maintaining an existing paying customer. It is always more expensive to gain a new paying customer as opposed to ensuring that your existing paying customer is happy and they stay a paying customer. And I am viewing it the same way. People may not be paying, but they have been kind enough to subscribe to my channel, and that is the difficult part. My goal now is to ensure that I am delivering on the promises that I made to them, and then hopefully that will reach somebody else new as well. But if not, at least I am serving those who have already done me the kindness of subscribing. And now let's talk about my goals for 2021, the year that we are in. First thing I want to do, 52 videos on the podcastage channel. At least 4 of those be tube microphone reviews. At least 4 of them be audio interface reviews. At least 4 of those be educational videos. At least 4 of those be versus series. And at least 2 of them be preamp reviews. I want it to be more well-rounded on the channel. It may lead to some videos doing poorly, some doing better. I think that's perfectly fine because if all I do is review microphones, that leaves a huge hole in the information there. Cables are important, preamps are important, different types of microphones can serve different purposes. All of that stuff is interesting to me. Also, educational videos. I've spoken about this in the past. Something that I think is important for me to focus on is currently, if all I do is reviews, the only people that I am helping and serving are those who are in the process of buying audio gear, and most of the time that is initially. They are buying their first microphone, their first audio interface, and once they have that, I'm out of the picture. My goal ought to be help them buy the microphone and then help them progress and get good sound out of that microphone, help them realize at what point they need to upgrade, if at all, and ultimately just help them along the path, the entire path, as opposed to just, hey, here's a microphone you should buy, because that is very, would vapid be the right word? It just isn't very helpful, because you're essentially saying, okay, if you want to swim, just paddle your arms and then pushing a kid into a pool. And guess what? Unless you train that kid is gonna drown. And I don't want that. I want to make sure that the kids that I am training, I want them to be able to at least tread water a bit. And then they can learn to swim and do all the fun whatevers. So that's the goal, to actually ensure that there is a proper educational path. Next, I want to do 50 episodes of the Bandrew Says podcast. That means 2 weeks off, maybe. Unless I do, no, that would be 2 weeks off, right? There's not 53 weeks this year. I don't know. 2020 was weird enough. Maybe 2021 will be even weirder. 2021, the year with 54 weeks, because why the hell not? Then I want to do 26 videos on watchcastage. If you don't know what that is, I started a new YouTube channel discussing watches. You can find it by going to watchcastage.com. I discuss watches, and I have a couple of videos, and I don't want to, because this is still young and it's just starting up, I want to allow myself time to learn more about watches and develop my production on that and really learn what I ought to be doing. So I don't want to jump in and do 52 or 100 videos in 1 year. That would be insane. And I want to have some time for myself. not producing content, and I think 26 would be fine. Then I want to do 12 videos on Geeks Rising. That means I have to do one video per month. That is easily doable with the favorite things videos, the things that are going to be coming out in January, all that stuff. And I don't know if I should include the quarterly podcasts in that. I don't think I should. I think it should be a pre-recorded, fully edited video on Geeks Rising. Then I want to do 12 videos on the Bandrew YouTube channel. Just whatever the hell I want, whether it be reading an audiobook. And for the record, some people may be thinking, Bandrew, why are you doing long-form audiobook reading on the Bandrew Scott channel? First off, it's not long-form. It is the Grimm's Fairy Tales, because that was put out by the Gutenberg Library, which is Creative Commons, I think. There's no copyright on it, so I'm able to do that and not get taken down or have any kind of strikes. But also, it's to provide long-form content. Even though I just said it's not long-form, it's at least 12 minutes of me speaking into a microphone that I have not used on this podcast. And I have had a number of requests saying, hey, you didn't use this microphone on your podcast. Please do something with it so we can hear it and determine if it would be good for actual audiobook reading as opposed to just short 5-minute bursts of audio. Because if it's just 5 minutes, you may not hear certain quirks with the audio. And with a 12-minute read, you may be able to hear that a little bit better. And lastly, I want to do 12 videos on the Bandrew Plays channel. That means 12 songs, whether it be a cover, whether it be an original. And that is, again, that's another thing that I started doing because first, I wanted a creative outlet this year, a more creative outlet. And secondly, I wanted to really be able to provide myself a way to dive in and learn even more about the microphones that I'm testing out and reviewing, learn the quirks, learn the inner workings of them and how they function a bit better in certain instances. And that has been a lot of fun for me to do, using the U67 on a bunch of songs, using the U87, the Mojave stuff, just an absolute blast to do. And that is about it for the content goals. I do have a couple of personal goals. First thing is I want to buy a home. I want to buy a cabin in the woods with high-speed internet. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but I think at this point it is a waiting game. See how the corporate structure changes over the next year. Because this outbreak, the COVID-19 thing, really threw everything up into the air. Companies, I should say, have learned we don't need people in the office as much as we thought we did. They're just as productive, if not more productive, working from home. We're getting more out of them for the same amount. And we don't have to pay for office space. So I want to wait and see how that plays out, see if corporations finally decide, okay, we will allow for teleworking and remote working forevermore. Go live wherever you want, because if that's the thing, I am moving. But I don't think that will happen for me, but that's something that I want to do. Another thing that I have been thinking about is actually taking a proper vacation. I made a joke in last year's conclusion of the year that what a stupid idea it was to actually want to take a vacation. I still have yet to take a vacation. I haven't had a vacation since 2011. It would be helpful to have a vacation so I can unwind and actually go explore and do something fun as opposed to just stay locked inside and grind away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until the day I die. That doesn't seem fun. So I think this year I should try at least to have some kind of travel, some kind of proper vacation, even if it is just 4 or 5 days, including the weekend. Take a couple of days off from work, take a week off from videos, and then maybe I'll have to double up a certain week, but whatever. As long as I can have some downtime, I think that would be a ton of fun. Those are my personal goals, I guess. I don't know. Why am I sharing this with you? You don't care. Why would you care about my personal goals? That's stupid. And I don't really feel like doing a What You Had to Say or Ask Bandrew this week. This is an easy week, taking it easy, working through some poorly laid out goals that I have and how I failed them and all that stuff. Hopefully to provide you some ideas of stuff that you can focus on or what you can learn from me failing miserably, all of that stuff. If you are at all interested in video games, this is a big announcement. There is a new podcast on the Geeks Rising Network. It is called Duck in Games, hosted by Angry Ducky. If you're a member of the Podcastage Discord server, you know Angry Ducky. I don't know why I am so saliva heavy today. It's disgusting. I'm disgusted by myself. It is hosted by Angry Ducky, though. He is doing video game design analysis. If that sounds at all interesting to you, go to geeksrising.com/dig or just go to geeksrising.com. The podcast is listed in the header and there is a big banner announcing it. Go check that out. And happy 2021. We have successfully made it to this new year. I don't want you to get some false hope, though. I don't want you to think, new year, everything is going to be solved. Nope. I would advocate for you to enjoy the ride because it's out of our hands. Almost everything going on in the world, we have no control over. We can watch it. We can focus on it. We can freak out about it. We can stress ourselves out to the point where our hair falls out and we keel over and die from a heart attack. That is not going to do us any good. That is not going to do anybody any good. So instead of taking that approach and freaking out all the time, why not just throw your hands up and say, "Wee!" as the roller coaster just goes further and further down into the hole in the ground? Because let me tell you, y'all thought 2020 was bad and that we had reached the lowest point. I assure you, it could go a lot lower, a lot deeper. It was not as bad as it has been. It is not as bad as it will ever get. But one thing you do have control over is your attitude about it. As it goes down. Just have a little bit of fun with it. Have a sense of humor about it. Take things serious when they need to be taken seriously, but taking everything seriously all the time will lead you to an early grave because you'll stress yourself out so damn much. And let me tell you, this last year, I stressed out way too much. I paid way too much attention to all of the horrors that was going on in the world. And what did I get from it? Nothing. I got nothing out of it. Nothing changed. My stress, my focusing on all of it accomplished nothing other than putting me in a terrible mindset and making me worse for the wear. And maybe putting on a couple of extra pounds, losing a couple of extra hairs, and making a couple of the remaining hairs a bit grayer. That did me no good. So I am going to be screaming, "Wee!" as the world burns all the way through 2021. I advocate you to do the same thing. And I believe that is actually it for this week. I hope you had a safe and amazing new year. You got to spend some time with those you love, or you got to spend some time alone if that's what you're up to. I hope 2021 brings you all the things that you wish for, or if you want to reverse psychology, the universe, I hope 2021 sucks a big bag of dongs. I hope it's the worst. But I do hope that you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. Again, go check out geeksrising.com. Check out Duck in Games if you are at all interested in video games. And I will talk to you next week. I love you. Bye-bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.